Greetings to all C3RF members and friends across Canada and indeed around the world, and a special welcome to the folks at Veterans for Freedom on their dedicated streaming channels as I view this video summary of the C3RF update for 23 May 2025. The title of this update is Bovine Scatterings, and it begins by noting that now that the Canadian federal election of 2025 is in the rearview mirror, the way is clear to make a few divinations. There can be little doubt that the followers of these C3RF updates will be interested in just what lies ahead for Canadians by way of their civil liberties. After all, if the campaign trail utterings of our new Prime Minister are to be taken seriously, they have just cause to be concerned. What to think, for example, when he called out American media platforms like X and free speech advocates like Elon Musk as being, quote, seized with racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all of its forms, unquote. At the very least, it would appear that he has it in mind to retable the infamous Bill C-63, otherwise known as the Online Harms Act. This act promises to use anonymous charges to fine, arrest, and gag those who might even think of spreading any harmful content capable of tweaking the sensibilities of thin-skinned individuals and groups. The problem with such legislation, however, is in the definition of its terms. Hateful and harmful are notorious for having as many interpretations as there are people making them. It's all a mug's game, as they are emotionally charged and loaded with eye of the beholder bias. These facets can easily lead to definition creep, as one person's notion of fake news or disinformation can be swept under his or her mind as hateful or harmful in nature. Indeed, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau famously made this connection when he accused, quote, those people, unquote, who were so disinformed as to argue against vaccine mandates that they were, quote, racist and misogynist, unquote. And so we saw pleadings in the workup phase of Bill C-63 to regulate disinformation that is clearly false and capable of, quote, increasing online polarization and prompting anti-democratic populism, unquote. Problem is, who determines what is clearly false? The possibility that Canadian online harms legislation could morph into a larger disinformation initiative under a new Liberal government cannot be dismissed out of hand. After all, Canadian experience in this regard can be seen to be tracking closely with that of European jurisdictions that Carney admires and is very close to. These include the European Union itself and the United Kingdom, where the main goal of related legislation is to, quote, prevent the spread of disinformation, unquote. The results can be seen in the summer 2024 arrest of Telegram entrepreneur Pavel Durov in France for what was seen to be a government bid to gain access to private information. Then there was the use of the UK Online Safety Act to jail social media posters who queried the religious motivations of the Southport killer of 3 young girls, claims which were later found to have been rooted in fact. When it comes to disinformation, it would appear that governments can be just as guilty as citizens. A true disinformation dilemma? The extent to which governments are prepared to go to propagate and disseminate disinformation to those they are sworn to serve can be seen in recent American examples. So it was over and over again in President Trump's first term, as he was declared to be both a Russian asset and an insurrectionist. These allegations were then complemented by 2 impeachment proceedings, with the last one progressed after he left office in January 2021. The Russian asset claims were proven to be a hoax based upon the FBI's own submission of 7 electronic binders containing 700 pages of crossfire hurricane documents to the House Judiciary Committee. That happened in April of this year. Indeed, these papers would reveal an FBI that had, quote, a lust for Trump blood, unquote, and was amenable to accepting uncorroborated evidence from the likes of Hillary Clinton herself. Then there were the Twitter files released by Elon Musk as the new owner of X. These files chronicled a massive disinformation campaign orchestrated by the same FBI in concert with the 2020 Biden presidential campaign. This campaign aimed to censor major media platforms, including Twitter and Facebook, to keep the Hunter Biden laptop story from becoming an election liability. Incredibly, the effort was complemented by a letter signed by 51 former and national intelligence officials that falsely claimed, quote, the laptop resembled a Russian disinformation campaign, unquote. These different disinformation campaigns, all aimed at creating fear and angst over a distracting Russia boogeyman, took on a global outlook with the formation of the State Department's Global Engagement Center in 2016. This agency was charged with coordinating the federal government's efforts to, quote, counter foreign state and non-state propaganda and disinformation efforts, unquote. Canada would become a partner in the Global Engagement Center's efforts to root out offshore disinformation with a particular interest in the Russian variety. It would do so through the G7's Rapid Response Mechanism Canada, or RRM Canada, which would serve as a permanent secretariat to the G7 RRM, working closely with the Global Engagement Center. The name of the game would be to act as an early warning system for the security and intelligence threats to elections task force during general election cycles, and otherwise keep an eye out for foreign state-sponsored disinformation, by that read Russian disinformation. It should come as no surprise, then, that the government-funded organizations like the CBC could be seen to mimic disinformation campaigns like those south of the border in the case of the Hunter Biden laptop. In Canada's case, it would be the amateurish and unfounded assertion that Freedom Convoy 2022 participants were directed and funded by Russian actors. It's almost as though the Biden and Trudeau administrations were working hand in hand, pumping out disinformation in the form of Russian-related BS, otherwise known as bovine scatterings. If disinformation can be defined as false information deliberately and often covertly spread in order to influence public opinion or obscure the truth, then we have to assume that it entails more than just the spreading of bovine scatterings. After all, if the intent is to obscure the truth, this can just as effectively be accomplished by restricting access to facts and evidence capable of revealing the truth of the matter at hand. And so we see Canada once again mimicking the tactics of a Biden administration by locking out information that might shine a light on evolving events and their root causes. Cases in point are many and include an abject refusal in both jurisdictions to consider any remedial actions for the Wuhan virus other than those based on Chinese public health protocols and sanctioned by the World Health Organization. Accordingly, early treatment and therapeutic options were not countenanced and were even discouraged as non-starters without any examination. Additionally, the blocking of information was allegedly foisted upon government institutions and agencies in the form of non-disclosure agreements that forbade related personnel from uttering statements that might prove embarrassing to Canada's Wuhan virus vaccine program. Mum was the word when it came to harmful side effects, dangerous contracts, organized propaganda programs, and the censoring of opposing viewpoints. Citizens were systematically denied their right to make informed consents, apparently, in an effort to secure the reputations of high-level public servants. Between the disinformation dished out by our ruling classes on this and many other files, why should everyday Canadians be amenable to having these same people make any legislation regarding disinformation? Between the bovine scatterings and obscuration used to sever ties between Canadians and their democratic representatives, one cannot be faulted for wondering if citizens would be better off with legislators picked out of the phone book. Certainly, the demonstrated proclivity to be less than fulsome with the facts would support the notion that legislators should be kept at arm's length from initiatives that would constrain John Q. Public from expressing or accessing information as per his or her fundamental charter rights. Best to let the sunshine of free speech operate as a disinfectant rather than trust those who, quite frankly, are prone to bamboozle those they were sworn to serve. Let the facts and evidence come forward to prove this case or that, and let the good people of Canada make up their own minds, unencumbered by bovine scatterings or suppressed information. In closing, a reminder to join us at CanadianCitizens.org, where you can see this update in its full glory, including all the links to all of the cited documents. Simply go to the News tab at the top of the page and select C3RF Member Updates from its drop-down menu. Until next time, this is Russ Cooper signing off, wishing you and yours much happiness and freedom from C3RF.